previous videos on remodeling my shop, I've done a lot. I took these white drawers and put drawer glides on them so they come out 100%. I closed in this window, which was a big deal, and I closed in the other window, and then I moved all the base cabinets to the wall that's going to get the miter saw. On my two work tables, I put drawers underneath them instead of shelves, which reduced the amount of dust that could collect. I moved my joiner to the wall where the base cabinets used to be, and that's a big improvement. I bought a fancy new miter saw and hooked it up to a vacuum cleaner behind the wall, so this saw is hooked up to just one vacuum cleaner, and the dust collection is 1,000,000 times better than my old saw. Not perfect, but it's much better. Fastened a very quick and easy little plywood rack for pieces of plywood that were too big to go in the overhead and too small to go in my big plywood rack. And then to the right you see the thickness planer used to be on open legs, so the bottom would collect tons of dust, so I closed that in with a cabinet. So all this was done in the first 4 videos of my little shop upgrade, and I'm not going to use the word best anywhere or any of the other adjectives that a lot of guys like to use, but it's all functional, and I did it myself, and it was not over the top expensive. I'm moving over to this wall. We have the bandsaw, we have the sander, we have a bunch of junk. I have my clamps behind everything, and yeah, this is going to be easy to make improvements on, maybe a little tricky to make it right, but that's the next project. So my old bandsaw's got a lot of hours on it. It's been used pretty hard. But the dust collection I don't think was a thing back then. This little arrow points to the factory dust port, and it basically doesn't do very much. Alright, this is going to be a tough one, boys and girls. I don't think my original idea of having a hole in the bottom connected to a pipe connected to my big dust collector is a bad idea. And I'm just going to try to improve on it a little bit by sealing around the edges a little better. Let's see. So I was leaking air here and under here and in these corners. I think I used to have something in these corners that went away. Maybe seal the back of this hinge a little bit better. All the internet gurus, it's all about getting this thing to wrap around the blade and get all the way up to the top. And buddy, that's gonna be tough because there's no room up there. I got the blade adjustments. There's no room right under the table. I don't know, it's gonna be tough. But anyway, I'm gonna take off this clip, and take off this clip because I think they're gonna be in the way. And then I'm working on sealing this bottom door a little better than it is now. So after several destroyed pieces of PVC pipe, this is what I have so far. I cut away some metal, cut too much there. Got it about right here. This piece is gonna sit in here and come and go with the door when I open the bottom door. Everything's really precarious, so I'm gonna hot glue it into place, and then I'm gonna reinforce it. And then I'm gonna see if I can open the door. If it rubs a little bit, I think when I close the door, it will self-trim itself. I think the bandsaw blade will just trim it so it'll go in there. I don't know. But it's so hard to hold it in the right spot right now. I'm hoping a couple of drops of hot glue will hold it till I can put some braces on it. So, put a couple of little wedges to help hold it still. And I got this little plastic plate, and it's epoxied here, and just a couple of blobs of hot glue to the saw itself. And the same thing over here. I got some epoxy here, and I got a couple of blobs of hot glue. I wasn't able to build up the epoxy thick because it's vertical and it wants to run. I was only able to put it on one side. So I think I'm gonna turn the saw on and see if this blows up in my face. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna try to pop it off and get epoxy on both sides, get it glued better, and then figure out what I have to do to adapt this to a vacuum hose. So, all right, you ready? Oh, we gotta plug it in. Hold on. All right, you ready? Let's go. Hey. Not bad. Not bad at all. See if I can get it on. I'm probably going to lose some fluid efficiency here, but this is the only 4-inch 90 I got, so I'm going to put a patch on it and tape it up. I can tilt the table all the way over with this pipe in place. What I can't do is open the door, open this door with this knob in place. I have to take that knob off, but the only time I open the door is to change the blades. So yeah, I guess we'll call this a success. This is how I plug these pipes off. I could have plugged the right size and I put it on the belt sander and put a little bit of a bevel on it. And I just stick it in there, hopefully. And I just stick it in there. And it's a good fit. And if I need to get it out, I can put some screws in it and pull it with the claw hammer. I do need to put a brace right here for this thing. It keeps wanting to sag down. All right, all good. So got the big blower hooked up, and we're getting some chips, and they're falling from the top, so they're like going around the bottom wheel and the top wheel and coming back and dropping. I was hoping the big blower would catch more of that, but we're getting a lot of chips falling out the white pipe, and I don't have a hose hooked up to it yet. So let's hook up a vacuum cleaner and let's try it again and see what happens. This is looking promising, having all those chips fall right off that pipe without even a vacuum on it. Okay, cutting a 2x4 with the vacuum and the big blower and my new little, you can't see that, hold on. And my new little fabric skirt. This is a piece of treadmill stuff. It's pretty tough. Pretty much nothing down here. Some kickback up top. Now this is a 1-inch blade with big teeth. A normal blade would have finer chips, so they would, I don't know, float in the air less and have less momentum, less energy. I don't know, but if I can remember to hook up the vacuum cleaner every time, I can live with this. This is awesome. This is like so much better. And I guess I didn't show it, but I sealed up a bunch of these cracks with foam. Got a rubber skirt here, got foam under there. I caulked this, a little piece of foam here. This little wood block was already there. So it's not 100%, but it's pretty well sealed up to help out the big blower. It's kind of a funny looking contraption. So to change the blade, you have to open the door. Can't open the door with this in place. So I did have to unscrew it, but it's 3 little screws. At first I took the top off and that still didn't solve it. So you just got to take this off. It's not that big a deal. I put 3 little screws back and we're going to try this with a good blade. So this is a brand new 3/8 blade, much quieter. I think that big 1-inch blade was bent or something. And the dust collection is better. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better, and it's easy enough if I just take the time to shove the vacuum cleaner hose up inside that white pipe. Whether I'll do it or not, that's the $1 million question. I know I will for a bigger project, but for one-off, I'm probably going to be tempted to not do it. Well, I'm getting a little bit of bounce back up here at top, but I'm getting nothing under the table. So once again, I'll take this as a win. Okay, cutting a plug on the bandsaw with a piece of plywood and a sharp blade. It's a pleasure. Very little bit of crap blowing around in the air. So good stuff. So this sander has two dust ports, one for the belt and a bigger one for the disc. I don't really use the disc very much, but I use the belt a lot. And I don't know, I think this is going to work better. I'm going to try. I have a spare gate right here. It's not doing anything. I'm going to put it right here. And then I'm going to whack this off and get rid of this 90 and this gate and this hose and put this Y right in the end of here, and then have the two hoses and try that way. I don't think I can get too much more efficient than that. Except maybe just hook it to a vacuum cleaner. But let's try this.
Okay, first things first, I removed my pipe clamps from behind the sander, which was really a terrible place to have them. Put them over here on the blank wall where I can get to them. I have a lot of longer pipes that I can swap out, but I don't use them very often, so I keep them out here in the dark with the spiders. And I took the window stool that was made wide on purpose as a shelf, and I cut it as narrow as I could get it because I'm trying to avoid open shelves in the shop. So I actually had new belts and new discs stored in the cabinet under this sander, and I put a disc on and kind of forgot how good this thing works with a fresh disc. And the belt sander part worked good with the dust collection, as did the disc. Good engineering from the factory. I just needed to increase the airflow by reducing the number of fittings that I was trying to make it work around.
Let's talk dust collection on the Delta Unisaw. This is my saw. It's about 25 years old. It has been 100% problem free, except for I had to change the magnetic switch in it once a few years back, but it's on the original belts and everything, and I'm pretty hard on this saw. It's got the wide table. It came with saw. This is a factory deal. I can't come past here to rip because this is fixed, but very seldom do I even have the fence way over here. What else is unusual? This was a blast gate. This was an operator for a blast gate in the back prior to adding this. This is my blast gate for both the bottom part of the saw and the overarm part, and it's pretty funky looking, but it works smooth like silk, and it's right here in arm's reach. What else do we need to know? That's about it. I actually drilled these two holes trying to get some air to the blower so it would blow more efficiently. Didn't seem to help much. And this pipe coming out the bottom is just standard it's standard Delta. It's just hooked up to the bottom, and they did a pretty good job of sloping the sheet metal to that hole that came from the factory. I did put little clean outs here because you tend to get lots of sticks. Table saw rips and it clogs up. Not all the time, but it clogs up. So I've got access on this end and the other end, but it doesn't work worth a poot. I don't know. It just doesn't. There's not enough air to service the bottom and the top, I don't think. Now, I made this thing, and it hangs from the ceiling, and it's kind of out of the way. Works sort of well. It's kind of out of the way. I can turn it. I can move it around. I can slide it up and down with two hands, but I can't do it with one hand. It's just a friction fit. But it just doesn't work very well. So I think I'm gonna remove this big old hose. This hose tends to pull this around too. And seal that up and use another vacuum cleaner. I could put it under here, or I could put it over here on the ground, or I could hang it and make this the typical little plastic shroud thing that comes from the back. Now, I can't hang it off of this thing because it needs to be sort of rigid because you don't want to be cutting and bump it and have it get into the saw blade and come at your face. It needs to be so it doesn't move side to side. This does move side to side. So this is probably all coming down, and I'll probably make something parallel with the saw, screwed to the ceiling, fairly rigid so that it can't swing back and forth or not easily. I don't have anything in mind yet, but I've been boning up on YouTube videos, so something will come out pretty soon. So the much reduced windowsill is back in place. Kind of don't have much choice on that. And now I'm gonna clean this up. This had stuff in it, and I can't really make a total cabinet out of it because the tilt wheel for the saw is off to the side. And that contraption there was at one time to pick the saw up on wheels so I could roll it, but it has so much weight on it now it doesn't work. I don't really want to move it anyway. I wonder if I can get that out of there so I can have a flat base. Anyway, I'm gonna vacuum all this mess out of here and see what we can do. Okay, this is special. This is a 6x4x4 T, specially made. You cut a hole, you bend the sheet metal out, you stick your pipe in, you wrap it with tie wire, and then you put a lot of tape around it. And it's held up for a long time, but it sure is ugly. So I'm gonna take everything from here off and change this piece of wood and let the 4-inch go straight into the gate. This is special. Okay, I'm ready to put the new adapter on the bottom. You can see how it works. Kind of funky, but it works like perfectly. So here's the new adapter. It's just a 4-inch pipe with a piece of plywood with a hole cut. I got a couple screws in it. And once I get it screwed up there, I'm gonna caulk it for whatever difference that makes. Let's put it up. Well, this old man cannot grow a mullet. I can't grow a mullet, and if I could grow a mullet, my bride wouldn't let me. But I can buy one. This is a mullet. Or if you're classy and from the South, it's a Mullet. And it is just a series of tubes for vacuum for the table saw. So actually in the published literature, nowhere do they mention the word table saw, and nowhere is there a picture of a table saw. There are lots of pictures of random orbital sanders, but no table saws. I love these little brackets. You can loosen this nut and swivel them around where you want them. Tighten the nut back up, and they stay pretty well. It's not long enough. I ordered another pipe and I ordered another fitting. So what I don't like about it is this little standpipe is terribly weak. It just wobbles all over the place, and this friction right here will almost not hold up the arm like it is. And if I had another length and another fitting, it's not going to hold it up. So I put a rope, I'll put 2 pulleys, and I put a counterweight, and I'll adjust this counterweight, and I'm going to put some kind of brace on this thing because it's kind of chicken. But I like the idea, and I like everything about it except that it's kind of flimsy, and I guess that's it. So then I bought a new vacuum cleaner, and I set it under here, and I drilled a hole, and the hose comes up and hooks up to the Mullet right here. I like all that, but this is as low as I can get the hole in the wall back there, and it's higher than this. So when I try to turn it around the right way, the hose kinks. So I've got to raise this floor up to make this hole and that hole line up. No big deal. What I also need to do is put a switch here to control a 120 volt receptacle so I can turn on the vacuum cleaner from right here. Now this switch is a 24 volt 3-way. It runs my big dust collection through 1 4-way switch and 4 3-way switches, so I can turn it off and on no matter where I am in the shop. But I can't hook up 120 volts to that in any kind of way, so I'm gonna have to have a whole separate switch. I could get stacked switches, but I don't think I can get a stacked switch with a 3-way on top and a regular switch on the bottom. And I wouldn't want to mix those high voltage and low voltage, so I'll probably just put another receptacle right here in the front, or right in the back. I could reach it if it was in the back. turn on a switch to control a receptacle. I have power. I have 120 volt power right here that is not switched, so I could steal power from here, run a switch over there, mount it some kind of way. And that'll be that. I have to raise the vacuum cleaner. I have to get a longer pipe here to get it centered over the blade, and I got to make this more rigid. So that's what we're going to do starting right now. I'm going to try to mount this pipe flange and cut the pipe off here and then connect this to the pipe. I think it'll be pretty rigid as short as that. This table is 100% manly. This is the same desktop as the other 3 cabinets had tops made out of. The original Delta top was not very good and didn't last very long. And this one's pretty bulletproof. So I think this will be pretty strong. Cut it this length. We'll put 4 screws in it. And I'll make some kind of strap to hold this to this pretty tightly, because this black pipe doesn't have to swivel. The clear pipe can swivel. This can be fixed, rigid, and never move again kind of deal.
Only because I've been cleaning my shop for the last 2 months or so did I know that I had a flange with a pipe on it. I knew that.
All right, we have a block of wood. It's drilled for the 2 big pipes. It's a little loose. We've got 3 pre-drilled for some screws, because this is hard wood and it'll crack. Now I'm going to rip it in half with the table saw and see if it won't tighten up. If it won't, I'll make one more rip with the table saw. So when I tighten the screws, it's going to tighten up on both pipes, and fingers crossed that might work. All right, 200% better. A little funky looking. My whole saw, or actually it was a Forstner bit for this pipe, was a little bit looser than the Forstner bit for this pipe, so no matter how I cut the slot, this one closed in more. But it worked, it just doesn't look right. I tried to make this out of metal, but I had trouble bending it just with the hammer. I didn't have a torch here. And I figured it would be 1 point of contact and 1 point of contact, and that wouldn't be as good as this wooden thing. So, all right, waiting for the other parts to come in the mail. Well, okay, simple platform done. I got to get a scraper and get rid of, and that's this plastic. And now comes the electrical part. Let's see what we can do. So I have an adequate amount of Romex. It was in my Romex drawer like it's supposed to be. I had a receptacle and a receptacle plate for my doodad's box, which was on the shelf where it was supposed to be. I got some wire staples, which I may not use. I'm gonna have to use screws and plastic hangers. But I do not have a double switch, a double box, and a single box. So I'm gonna run to the hardware store and get those 3 items, and then we'll start playing Sparky. Okay, I got my stuff, and I'm just gonna let you know ahead of time, I'm gonna break some rules according to the electrical gurus. I'm gonna wire this with 14 gauge. It's on a 20 amp circuit, so it should be wired with 12 gauge. But it's the dead end of a circuit, and I know what exactly is plugged into it, and I'm gonna have so many wires in these little boxes that the 12 gauge is just gonna be past my pay grade to get it in there. And another thing I'm gonna do is put this switch and the new 2 switches in the same box. And that's taboo, because this is low voltage. This is 24 volts. And the new switches will be 120 volts, but it'll be all right, I promise. Now the table saw is 220 volt. I took the cover off. I wanted to make sure if I screwed into this side to support the double box, I wasn't gonna hit any wires, and they're all clear. So I'm gonna put the cover back on and attach the double box to this box. Okay, so I got it all wired, and I checked it. This is the low voltage, and it works. Now on my high voltage, my 120 volt, I needed a 3 conductor plus ground. I had a 2 conductor plus ground. So I could have made the ground a hot wire, but I decided just to add another wire. Now this is not kosher because it's not in the Romex connector, but it's only gonna be from here to here, and it's up underneath there. But on the other hand, it is a 12 gauge, so I'm back legit. So I'm gonna button this up, and then we're gonna work on that little box, and it's gonna be really tight because there's these wires plus another one coming into it. So in order to get this receptacle or these 2 plugs to act independently, I gotta break off that little tab right there. On the other side, the neutrals can stay together, but the positives have to be separate, or they'll both be on at the same time, which is not what I want. So these are my 2 wires coming from the switch. They'll be hot when the switch is on. This will be the hot wire going to the switch, and the 2 grounds will be connected together, and the neutral will go on the other side of the receptacle, and those are tied together. And unfortunately, I don't have any more 14. We're going to be dealing with the 12, which is, you know, it's not that big a deal. It's just harder to get all these wires together. So let's get this together. All right, we're done here, I think. The neutral comes in and goes to the neutral for both sides, both receptacles. The hot comes in, goes to the 2 switches. From the switches, it comes back to either this hot wire, this white wire, or this red wire. And the 2 grounds are hooked together and then hooked to the ground prong. And now I need to get all this stuff in the box and tidy it up and put some clamps to hold this up tight. Put some nails to hold that against the wall. And then the last thing we do is hook it up to that outside receptacle. The one. Sometimes little things make a big difference. Took a copper strap. These are from the demo boat, and some self-tapping screws. And I put this little copper strap right here. And now I have a place to put the miter gauge. And I never had that before. It was always put down somewhere awkwardly in the way or whatever. Because when you use a rip fence, you got to take it off. So now it has a home. And sometimes it flops this way, and sometimes it goes down a little further, and wherever. It doesn't matter. It's right there. I can grab it, and it's not going to fall. So I consider this a win. Small victory, but they all add up. Just received my 2nd package from Mullet Tools, or Mullet Tools. I got a pipe to make this longer to try to get this closer to the blade. I got 1 more swivel connection. And I think I have an extra pipe. Well, maybe not. I was hoping to have an extra pipe to maybe cut it up to make a better hood. But let's see what we can do with what we have now. I'm still fighting some creep. It still wants to sag. So I'm going to move my pulley to the beam and then move my little rope further out on this piece of plastic. Okay, moving the pulley, moving where I have it tied to this pipe, and the heavier counterweight made a huge difference. And now it feels more balanced when you move it. It doesn't feel like it's so springy. And I'm 3/4 of an inch right here. And I'm gonna, whoop, it just came down. Let's see, it was 3/4 of an inch. Okay, it's 5/8. And if I don't touch, I'm not gonna touch it for a while. I'm gonna come back and measure it and see if we're having droopage. One of the issues with this thing is you see the little ins and outs on the 2 plastic parts. Well, if you get it outie and an innie and tighten it, it doesn't move at all. But if you're between, and that's where you want to be, that's where a lot of the droop comes from. So I guess that's just, you're just gonna have to live with that. Or I'm gonna have to live with that. You don't have to do anything. But all in all, I'm pretty happy so far. Probably could have saved a couple $100 if I'd have just got PVC pipe and bent it or put fittings. But this is a little bit flexible. I can swing it out the way. Yeah. This came with the T for the vacuum and everything. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this so far. Let's see how it works. It's Sunday morning, so I'm not gonna give it a test run. Too early in the morning. All right, it's been about an hour and it's moved maybe 1/8 of an inch, so I think that's pretty good. I want to adapt this to go over the blade, probably cut most of this off, which means this will have to go back at an angle, which means it'll be even higher, which means the geometry will be better for as far as strength goes, because a lot of it, I don't know, just seems like it'll be stronger. So let's give it a shot. Now this blade's not super sharp, but this thin plywood's not much of a challenge for the saw. My mullet is, it didn't sag. I've been 3 days. It's right where I left it. So we'll see if it does any good today. So I'm gonna turn on the mullet. Nope, that's the light. Turn on the blower. Turn on the saw. Making noise. There's 12 full sheets ripped up to 6-inch strips. And how did the mullet do? I really don't have a clue. I could not see dust making this corner. and there's lots of chips flying around. I mean, but that's a lot of sawing. The chips don't bother me. I'm hoping it'll get some of the dust. And I just don't know until I'm gonna pull this vacuum cleaner out and see if there's anything in it. I think that's the only way I'm really gonna be able to tell. Well, that's not too impressive so far. Not too impressive. I'm gonna work on this head, this funnel thing, see if I can get a better shape. Part of the deal with this wet wood is the dust sticks to the plywood itself. Well, that's not the problem. It's just not working right. I took a chance on buying a couple of these little, they come two a pack, these little fixtures. I'm sure they're 100% Chinese. And it's kind of cool the way the wings fold up. Let me open this. See the wings fold up and then they fold down. And I'm pretty sure the main reason for this is that they can ship them in a smaller, box. And I got my first one hooked up over my table saw. And since I had these two switches on these two receptacles on these two switches, I now have super bright light over my table saw, which I like. Hope it lasts. And I got one more to play with. Just screw into a light bulb socket, which I didn't really have the right kind, so right now it's kind of Yankee up there, but I'll get one next time I go to the Home Depot. Yep, happy with this purchase. $30 for two of them. I can do that. This adapter came with my new vacuum cleaner. It had some sort of grill thing on the inside. I pulled it off and threw it away. And then it had a locking ring around the outside of the perimeter to lock into these little locks. So I ground that off flush. This little rubber coupling came with the mullet. It wasn't very tight. I was scared it was going to fall off the gray part, so I put a clamp on it. And there's a lot of suction right here. So I think if I can get it in the right spot, I think it might work. But it's late, so let's turn it off and mess with it another day. And final wrap up. This was my really problem area dust-wise. The table saw, the bandsaw, and the belt sander. The bandsaw now does pretty good, although I do need to drag the vacuum cleaner over here and stick it in. So chances are, if I'm gonna do a quick cut, I probably won't do that, and the dust will come out of here and go down. But if I got a lot to do, I will bring the vacuum cleaner, plug it in, open the slide gate, good to go. The belt sander works surprisingly well with the manufacturer's hookup. I put a hose here for the disc, a hose here for the belt, hooked them together with a Y, put them in a 4 inch for the slide gate, and it works. It works. I didn't really do much except put it where it was supposed to be. And the table saw with the mullet, that's kind of yet to be determined. It definitely works better than it did when I had the big pipe going overhead. There's much more suction coming out the bottom of the saw. I've got the extra attachments for the mullet to get it in the right spot. It does take some tweaking to get it stationary in different positions. You can't just yank it around because the counterweight will pull it back, or they'll sag or whatever. But I got them in position right now. We'll do a test run on a nice big hunk of cypress. And I have my switches here. This is the 24 volt switch for my main vacuum. This is a light switch for this fancy light I bought. I went ahead and put it on the bracket that used to hold the old vacuum system. And it's nice for my 1953 Model Is. And this controls the vacuum cleaner. It sucks in the mullet. And it's got a lot of suction, so I should be able to adjust this to get it right. Well, let's give it a try. That was magic. The cypress turned into a piece of plywood. But anyway, you can see that it works pretty darn good, and I'm a happy man. Much better. So all this dust collection stuff is great, but the best improvement I made to my shop so far has been this drawer right here. all my bit tips. I've bought these, the little things the bit tips come in, magnetic strips. I've tried 10 different ways to keep my bit tips sorted, and I can't do it. I'm not that organized. I'll get a perfect little plastic thing with a hole for everything, and the next thing you know, 2 holes are empty, and I have one that doesn't fit anywhere. And it's just, but this works. This is my nut drivers and my bit tip drivers, my Torx, my Phillips, and my square and straight bladed. And I can, this much I can organize, and I can find anything I want real quick. And then, as a bonus, I've got my drill bits. Now these are just mixed drill bits, and this is what I typically go to because I typically use a drill bit to pre-drill for screws. I do have a drill index that's complete. It's right here, but most of the time I go right here, and I got chamfer bits, and I got some specialty wood bits and some dowel, what do you call those? Dowel locators. But this has just been great, and I got room for more stuff. So yeah, sometimes it's the little things that make a big difference.
So what's left in the shop is basically this, turning a drawer full of crap into a third of a drawer full of crap. If anybody's interested, I'll make a video, but probably it's kind of boring. So that may be it for the workshop series. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching.